Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello with another episode of the World's Newsround. The date, time, and recording of this is the 12th of July, 2024 at about 10 a.m. UK time. Excuse me. I do apologise, I'm not feeling incredibly well today. This is a premiere video, so this has been pre-recorded for those wondering. And obviously, I will timestamp the intro, so if you happen to come on and you could just skip the intro and all that kind of stuff, guys. But those who are watching this premiere live, thanks for watching along, much appreciated. Obviously, I can't see your comments. I'll try to be there later if possible, but let's crack into it. So the World's Newsround, which is a premiere video, which is what I do, is I cover various different stories from outside the UK. For those who don't know. And we're going to start off with the first one here, obviously, with the biggest story that's been going on, especially from last night. And that is Joe Biden. And this is from Al Jazeera. The key takeaways from Biden's NATO news conference, the gaffes and defiances. The briefing was a chance for the president to project strength amid calls for him to drop out of the presidential race. And unfortunately, guys, that did not happen. And we only need to kind of listen in to President Biden and to know that he's just not got it anymore.
Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Jesus Christ. That was bad. That was so bad. Like, my God. I mean, he did attempt to save it after, but it was just so embarrassing. And Zelensky's like all lost, but behind the scenes he would have been like, feck's sake. Yeah, that's just really embarrassing. He already, like, the thing is that after that debate, you know, he slapped back a lot of things. He did an interview where he did his first interview after his first debate with Trump, and he came out swinging, looked pretty solid, and then the gaffes started appearing again and again, and now here at the summit here, you can tell the gaffes are there, and it's just like you can't do this job. Like, I'm sorry, you just can't do this. You just can't do this job. He's not got it up here, guys. This is the problem. And I said this ages ago, guys, that when Biden was elected president, because of his age, the Democrats should have had a contingency plan in place. They should have already been sorting out and deciding, okay, we finally got rid of Trump. We can't keep Biden in forever because of his age. We should have a contingency plan. We should be prepping Kamala Harris for the presidency role. Ideally, we should have been having this as a cover for themselves. They should have bigged her up. Like, Kamala Harris is known in the world, but she's not obviously as bigly well known, I would say, as Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's obviously the president and he beat Donald Trump. And I guess the other question, I suppose, is, and we talked about this before, whether Kamala Harris, the vice president, would she be strong enough to knock Donald Trump back from becoming president? Now, I do think she will swing some great punches at him in the debates. But do I think, she would win enough of the American people to become president? My answer is no. So are the Democrats doomed? I suppose is the question we have to ask ourselves. And at the moment, I'm going to say yeah. At the moment, it seems very bleak right now for the Democrats. I can't see anything but a Trump win as of right now. I always thought that, because America has to choose between two old white men. The problem is that Biden's a bit more gone, while Trump is a nutter. And the difference is, at least while Trump is a bit of a nutter, he's very clear about what he is saying, whereas Biden is not, which is a real shame. But that's what happens when you get older. your brain doesn't always start to be there, and he is losing it. I'm afraid, it's real shame to see. It really, really is. So the United States President Joe Biden delivered a feisty news conference on the final day of the NATO summit in Washington, D.C., as he sought to dispel concerns about his age and continued ability to lead. I've got to finish the job because there is so much at stake, Biden told a group of reporters. But still, the Democrat 81 misspoke on several occasions in the question and answer section, raising further concerns about his performance. Biden's currently in a heated race for the second term in the White House, but this poll numbers have faltered after a dismal performance in the inaugural 2024 presidential debate, where he stumbled and stuttered opposition his Republican rival Donald Trump. In the aftermath, a growing caucus of Democrats have called for Biden to drop out of the race, making room for a younger candidate to be the party's nominee. But Biden supporters framed Thursday's NATO news conference delivered on the third and final day of the summit as a platform for the Democratic leaders show vigor and strength for the international community. My schedule has been full bore. Where has Trump been riding in his golf cart? Biden said. The stakes of this news conference was high for Biden. Early on Thursday, the number of congressional Democrats publicly pushing Biden to exit the race grew to 11. Hours before the briefing, U.S. Representative Hillary Clinton of Michigan became the 10th House Democrat to call for Biden to end his bid for re-election. On Wednesday, Senator Peter Walsh of Vermont also called for Biden to suspend his campaign. Yeah, the numbers are growing. Amid the intense scrutiny, as Thursday's news conference came to be informally known as the Big Boy News Conference, a moniker that made the rounds online in his late-night comedy ahead of the event. At the White House earlier this week, the press secretary Karen Jane Pierre appeared to embrace the name, crediting it to Justin Sink from the publication Bloomberg. However, she emphasizes the serious nature of the speech, saying the president aimed to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance with NATO. How did it go? Here are the key takeaways from Biden's news conference. So obviously, as we saw in the video, Biden introduces Ukraine's Zelensky as President Putin. Even before the speech started, Biden got off on the wrong foot. Yeah, it was already started off bad. Less than an hour before the news conference was scheduled to start, Biden introduced his Ukrainian counterpart Vladimir Zelensky by the name of his battlefield adversary, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Yeah, and then he obviously said President Putin. Biden quickly caught himself recovering the joke. President Putin, he's going to beat President Putin. Zelensky, for his path, laughed off the gather. Several world leaders came to Biden's defense, including French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Slips of the tongue happen. If you always monitor everyone, you will find enough of them, Scholz told the press at the conference. Since 2022, Russia has led full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and a prominent topic in this week's NATO summit. Well, yeah, of course. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, for instance, pledged that his war-torn country was on an irreversible path to membership in the military alliance, despite saber-rattling from Russia. And Biden himself announced a historic donation of air defense equipment in Ukraine in an earlier speech on Tuesday at the start of the summit. The news conference opened after a delay, with Biden arriving at the podium with a "Hey buddy" and a noticeable throat clearing. Now, as he launched into prepared remarks, Biden took square aim at his Republican rival Trump. The former Republican president has long been an outspoken critic of NATO, arguing that the U.S. soldiers a disproportionate amount of the cost of the alliance. Media reports also indicate that behind closed doors, Trump has repeatedly threatened to withdraw the U.S. from NATO, potentially destabilizing the alliance. NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II, Biden said. The idea was to create an alliance of free democratic nations that would commit themselves to a compact of collective offensive, stay together, they all knew would be safer. But he said Trump would undermine that collective safety. Every American must ask himself or herself, is the world safer with NATO? Are you safer? Is your family safer? I believe the American people know the answer to all those questions is yes. Biden also implied that if Trump is re-elected, he will fail to uphold Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, which requires member states to defend one another if attacked. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want," he said. "But I have made it clear a strong NATO is essential to American security, and I believe the obligations of Article 5 is scared." And President Biden was repeatedly coughing and clearing his throat during his speech as well. At the end of his prepared remarks, Biden announced that he had a list of reporters to call in on to question and answer segment of the news conference. His performance grew slightly more uneven as he took repeated questions about his ability to represent the Democratic Party in the upcoming election. Biden has long struggled with a stutter, which emerged in several responses that he gave to reporters. But in one particular noticeable flub, he accidentally swapped the name of his Vice President Kamala Harris with that of Trump. I would have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president if she wasn't qualified to be president. So let me start there, Biden said. He's not got it. He's just not got it, guys. It was a moment that Trump himself quickly seized upon on social media. He also mocked Biden's stutter, Crooked Joe. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief. My. Nevertheless, Biden was in definitive response to criticisms about his age and capacity to lead at the news conference. I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president, he said. Of Trump, Biden added, I beat him once and I will beat him again. When asked how he reassured the American public, Biden responded, the best way to assure them is the best way to assure myself, and that is, am I getting the job done? You're getting work done, but you're not seem to be... you're not there. You're not the same as you was 4 years ago, Joe. That's the reality is. Still, while Biden has faster his position on his presumptive nominees for the Democratic Party, he acknowledged that there are other contenders who could potentially do the job. There are other people who could beat Trump too, but it's awful hard to start from scratch, Biden said. Democrats often warm words to Vice President Kamala Harris, his running mate, and a figure often involved as a possible replacement should he step away from the race. This is a hell of a prosecutor. She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate she was really good. I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president, Biden remarked. From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She's qualified to be president. That's why I picked her. As the news conference would to a close, reports continued to press the president about what it would take for him to step away from the race. Could his advisor say anything that would disillusion him? No, unless they came back and said there's no way you can win. Biden responded before dropping a whisper. No one's saying that. No poll is saying that. They need. I don't believe for a second that there isn't that there isn't someone behind the scenes saying to him, "Listen, Mr. President, I don't think you can win this." I would not be surprised at all. However, Biden's performance on Thursday is revealed. The tight race for the White House has cast a long shadow over this week's NATO summit, with allies expressing both concerns and abhorrence. I can't say that word. Sorry, guys. For his part, Stoltenberg, the outgoing NATO General Secretary, called the NATO alliance resilient, despite concerns that a Trump presidency could weaken the alliance. Often there has been concerns about whether new governments, new political parties will support NATO, Stoltenberg said on Thursday, and of course, in democracies, you don't have any guarantees. Earlier in the week, Zelensky acknowledged that everyone is waiting for November to see how the US elections panned out, including Russian President Putin. God, even I'm losing my words. But he encouraged world leaders to act before them regardless of the outcome. It's time to step out of the shadows, make the strong decisions work, to act, not to wait for November or any other month, Zelensky said in his speech at Ronald Reagan's Institute on Tuesday. The election scheduled for November the 5th will see Biden and Trump face off in a rematch of the 2020 race. After the speech, Biden is scheduled to campaign in the swing state of Michigan on Friday, which is the day of this being recorded. He's not got it, guys. He's just not got it anymore. I mean, I understand. I understand why people don't want to switch over because of they don't have anyone ready, sort of thing. They don't have a campaign built from scratch and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But the reality is, guys, he's just not there, and I cannot see this man. I cannot see this man beating. Like if they stick with Biden, and he goes into that second debate, and Biden gets thumped again, and fumbles and whatnot again, he's done. He's done, and everyone will know it. But they will try to hide it and whatnot. They have an opportunity here to change things, and I think it's worth the risk of swapping out. I think it really is worth the risk, because I think the damage is already done up here. No matter how much they try to cover it up, to try to protect it, like he's not there, guys. If this hadn't happened, if he hadn't had stutters, if he hadn't had not the stutters, but if he hadn't misspoke people, misspoke people, like the stutters and the kind of like trying to get your brain together sometimes, that's not the end of the world. But when you're deliberately getting people's names wrong, not once but twice, like that's really bad. That's really bad. especially Zelensky there, and a very important speech there. It's just, like, no, just not good at all. Not good at all. And Trump can obviously just take advantage of the situation, which is what he did. So the next one I got for you guys is also from Al Jazeera. If we're going across all the way to Asia for this one, guys. So the headline is: the Philippines will stand our ground in dispute with China, officials say. The Philippines and National Security Advisor Eduardo Ano said Malena will push back against cohesion in the South China Sea. This is once again more rhetoric talk from the Philippines, but like the thing is that I don't know what they're going to do, because it's not like they're going to shoot at China. And China, obviously, with their firepower and their navy, can be a bit of a bully. So they do need to do something. We know that Philippines have had discussions with China as well. We do know that that's been happening quite a lot as well in these disputes. China have specifically said that the waters that the Philippines keep going in are theirs, when they're actually officially not. They claim to own more waters that they have, which is not true. This is a problem, and no one's kind of putting China in their place, because China's quite a big bully in Asia. That's the problem. But this has been going on for a long time already now, and yeah, there doesn't I don't know what exactly they intend to do. They say stand their ground. What are they going to do exactly? The Philippines will stand our ground in its dispute with China in the South China Sea, a top security official has said. So Malaysia and Beijing have been engaged in a series of escalating confrontations over the strategic waterway, with each side accusing the other ships of carrying out dangerous maneuvers near the contested second Thomas Shoal. Yeah, this is where the most of the contestants have been taking place. We will continue to stand our ground and push back against cohesion, interference, Millennium influence, and other tactics that seek to jeopardize our security and stability, the Philippines National Security Advisor Eduardo Ano said on Friday, at an event celebrating the anniversary of the international ruling on the dispute that sided against China. Ano also said Millennium rejects any use of force that seeks to coerce and subordinate the national interests of the Philippines, but is committed to the cause of peace. We are committed to address the managed difficult issues through dialogue and through diplomacy, Ano said. China claims more than 90% of the South China Sea, including waters that fall within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines and 4 other Southeastern Asian countries. An international tribunal in The Hague of 2016 found that China claims had no legal basis, but Beijing has rejected that ruling as illegal, null and void. Yeah, so they basically don't care what international bodies are saying. They're just going to basically do whatever they want. China and the Philippines Coast Guards and navies have been involved in numerous confrontations in the disputed waters, including an incident last month during which Chinese Coast Guards personnel wielding knives, sticks, and axes surrounded and boarded 3 Philippine Navy boats during a resupply mission to Second Thomas Shoal in the sparsely island. The Philippines has boosted military occupation with the United States and its ally as a counter to China's growing power and influence in the region. On Monday, Malaysia signed a defensive pact that will allow Japan to deploy its troops in its territory. The Philippines will continue to foster closer ties with like-minded countries, and I said, and remains open to frank discussions based on mutual respect and sincerity. Yeah, that's a nice little thing. I've covered it in a short video, to be fair, but there's nothing here that says that they're going to do something about this. They're going to stop them. There's nothing really at the moment that's saying that China are doing it. And the problem is, China have a bigger military, China have bigger firepower, they have a bigger navy, and even with America's support and standing by them and whatnot, it doesn't change the fact that it's still problematic to them. And the thing is, unless they put their military literally there around those seas, and what are they going to do if China confronts them exactly? Are they going to engage in them? It's not a good situation in any way, shape, or form. What's happening? But obviously, I would try to keep you guys updated as much as I can in short videos with what's happening in the Philippines whenever I possibly can, you guys. So the next one before I go to it is from CNN. If you haven't already, guys, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. This one It's from CNN. The headline is Kenya's President Ruto fires almost his entire cabinet after protests. This is insane. What's his reason for doing this? So, for those who don't know, so let me just give a bit of context to what's been going on in Kenya. So, not too while ago, Kenya's president, or his government, shall we say, tried to introduce tax hikes, massive tax hikes. They tried to argue that this was needed for the country. The public were furious about this, and there were lots of protests, lots of violent protests as well. And these were promises that the public said that you weren't going to be introducing any kind of tax hikes whatsoever. And basically, the president's kind of, according in the minds of the people of Kenya, they went, the government and him and the government, the president and the government, kind of went back on that, which infuriated people. And since then, what's happened since then that they have withdrawn the bill that would increase tax hikes, but they haven't gotten rid of scrapped it altogether. They've kind of just put it on the shelf, and protesters were still continuing after that because people were saying, "Well, it's not enough for us. So you say you're not going to introduce the bill. You've still got the bill there. We want it destroyed." Excuse me. And that hasn't happened. So clearly, this decision here, firing almost the entire cabinet. Clearly, there has been disputes taking place within his party, and it's turning Kenya's turning on its head. And this has actually been I think it's been one of the more stable countries in recent times. But clearly, it's all turned on its head, with these all because of these tax rises that the president and his party wanted to introduce. Let's have a read, but more into this, guys. So Kenya's President William Ruto has fired almost his entire cabinet after weeks of anti-government protests he announced on Thursday. So the only Deputy President, Reganelite, and the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Mussolina, have been left in their posts, the President said. The decision was taken upon a reflection of a holistic appraisal of his cabinet, he told reporters from the State House, Nairobi. Now, this is him to say, listen, I'm getting rid of my people. I'm bringing in new people because it's their fault. This is the interpretation I'm reading from this. Rather than him taking ownership responsibility for his actions, he's literally trying to blame his cabinet, maybe. This is the interpretation, the perception that I have here, which is not right. He needs to take the ownership responsibility for what's happening. Even with the progress we made, I'm actually aware that the people of Kenya have very high expectations of me. They believe that this administration can undertake the most extensive transformation of our nation's history. Ruto said he's engaging in extensive consultations to form a broad-based new government. The Kenyan leader has been at the centre of political firestorm in recent weeks after efforts to push through a controversial tax bill sparked the days of violent protests across the country. Yeah, the tax bill obviously raise income for the government, but at the expense of its people. He acknowledged on Thursday that his recent turn of events had brought the country to an inflection point with a necessary action. Ruto chose to withdraw the finance bill entirely at the end of July after deadly protests that left dozens dead. I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formation with the aim of setting up a broad-based government, Ruto said. The president had said that he hoped the new government could help him implement rational programs, namely focused on dealing with debt, expanding job opportunities, eliminating wastage, and the duplication of government agencies and handling corruption. But during the process, government operations set to continue uninterrupted, Ruto said, promising to announce the additional measures in due course. Yeah. This is obviously the latest. I haven't heard too much more since. So, yeah, Kenya's right now not in a very good place. They're not in a very good place at all. And Ruto is actually a president that's actually, I think before this, was actually quite some people actually quite thought he was pretty decent. I know obviously he secured a trade deal of some sorts with the European Union a while back with Ursula von der Leyen. So that was a very good positive signs of where the direction that the country was going. But it just feels like it's all turned on its head here. Obviously, like every other country, it has its problems, and this was one of his ways of dealing with it was by raising taxes. But the problem is that it's harmed quite a few significant people as well. The decision to do this. But I'm glad they live in a bit of a democracy of some sort, so that at least people can protest to a certain extent. We don't have that. We're not as bullish as Kenyans. Let me put it that way, guys. But I will try to keep up to date with this as much as I possibly can. But let me know what you guys think about the situation in Kenya. The next one I've got for you guys is from Brazil. This is from The Guardian. Fascinating one. This dropped yesterday on Thursday, the 11th. So Brazil's spy agency is accused of illegally targeting Bolsonaro's foes. So 5 arrested in investigation of claims are being monitored and harassing top public figures and politicians. So they're claiming here that the spy agency has been accused of illegally targeting Bolsonaro here to try and silence him. Now this is extremely concerning. There have been a lot of allegations, a lot of things about the former Brazilian president beforehand, and obviously we know that he's very Trumpian-like, and he is popular with the people of Brazil, but they managed to oust him at the last presidential election. I imagine that he'd be looking to push back in. He's also responsible for destruction of quite a bit of the rainforest when he was in charge as well. That has stopped under the new president. Much to relief of the entire world. Bolsonaro obviously wants to continue to do that among many other things. Obviously, the allegations of him, there were allegations of him, which since I last covered them, I haven't heard anything new. But this one here, obviously saying that his spy agency have been accused of doing things illegal, does raise a lot of questions. It could just be a case of tit for tat, but maybe there might be more to this than we possibly know. So, Brazilian's intelligence agency was illegally weaponizing during Jair Bolsonaro's far-right administration to monitor and harass some of the country's most important politicians, journalists, judges, and environmental officials, federal police have alleged. So, the federal police have alleged this about Brazilian's intelligence agency. That's really bad. 5 people were arrested on Thursday, part of a long-running investigation into suspicions that during the Bolsonaro 2019-2022 government, the Angelina Brasilia del Atinia, if I mispronounced the names, I do apologise, that's ABIN, was used to spy on the president's political foes. According to an 187-page police document, the target included some of Brazil's best-known public figures and politicians from across the political spectrum. Those targeted include the head of Brazil's lower house, Arthur Lira, and his predecessor, Rodrigo Maia, prominent allies of the current left-wing president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, including the Senator Raul Rodrigues, conservative figures including the former governor of São Paulo, Stride, Giorgio Dora, 4 Supreme Court justices, 2 prominent political journalists, Vera Mesquita and Mauricio Gambio, 2 senior officials from the Environmental Protection Agency, Ibama, Hugo Loss, and Roberto Carbatel. So, a lot of using the powers to try and suppress and target certain people. Yeah, that's yeah. We know Brazil has problems, but damn, it really does open your eyes when you read them into this, guys. So, federal police claim that under the watch of Bolsonaro's spy chief Alexandra Ramagem, a criminal organization of highly offensive capabilities was set up with ABIN. That parallel intelligence agency allegedly uses a series of clandestine techniques to gather information about people or groups considered adversaries or irritations. The fruits of that illegal work were allegedly transformed into online disinformation designed to hurt the reputations of the organization's targets and Brazil's democratic institutions. Members of the covert unit also accused of targeting internal revenue services officials who were investigating suspicions of corruption involving President Bolsonaro's senator's son, Florindo Bolsonaro. Interesting. That's really scary. A screenshot of the 2020 WhatsApp message sent by one arrested suspect shows that the alleged head of the secret group telling a colleague, "We need to find dirt on a target." Another message from 2022 shows a police officer sending an alleged member of the group information about 3 environmental protection officials deemed to be causing trouble for the administration. In a third and even more shocking exchange, the suspects and a military official raced against Supreme Court Judge Alexandria Del Montes, who was credited with helping stave off a right-wing campaign to overthrow Brazil's democratic system that culminated in the January 2023 attacks in Brasilia. This is getting effed up. This badly is asking for a little extra. One of them writes, just 762, the other replies, the apparent reference to the 762mm rifle used by Brazil's armed forces. The first person replies in English, headshot. Those named by police as targets reacted with anger and shock. Rodriguez Mada condemned what he called the behavior of totalitarianism and criminal government, typical the worst of dictatorships. Randolph Rodriguez, who was the Vice President of Congressional Inquiry into the Bolsonaro administration, highly controversial handling of a COVID outbreak which claimed more than 700,000 lives, called the revelations tragic. While Brazilians were dying from the previous government, instead of using its time to buy vaccines, it used its time to persuade and monitor the regime of political adversaries, he told reporters. Another target is Senator Ren Calhimilos lambasted the intelligence agency's criminal capture for the use of Gestapo methods. Florico Bolsonaro denied any knowledge of the elect scheme. Quite simply, I had no relationship with Rabin, he tweeted, claiming the accusations were an attempt to scupper former spy chief Ramadan Bolsonaro's back group to becoming Rio's next mayor. Ramadan has yet to comment on the Thursday's police claim, but has previously denied being responsible for a illegally spying scheme during his time at Aben. I don't know anything about them, he says. He says, I don't know anything about them. It's nothing to do with me, he's claiming. He's claiming it's nothing to do with him. It's nothing to do with him, guys. So, originally the headline, and I misinterpreted the headline there because it sounded like that. It sounded like that the spy agency was target was I misread obviously what the headline is there, but this is really bad. But it also just highlights the corruption that's really taken place in a lot of South American countries. I don't think there's a clean South American country at all. I think they all have high levels of corruption, if not more, than pretty much most places in the world. And it's a lot of problems. South Americans have a lot of problems, unfortunately, which is a real shame that their politicians can't serve, shall we say, in the best interest for its people, which is a very disappointing frustration, to say the least. But yeah, this is quite big, and obviously try to keep an eye on it as much as I can for you guys. What do you guys make of the story? Oh, you've killed the orb, I see. Oh, there you go. He's Ollie thought I thought Ollie killed the orb there, but apparently he hasn't. But the gang is here. The gang is here. These guys watch over the work behind me and let me know if I'm doing good or bad work and whatnot. What's that, Pingu? He says it's time for a break. You're right. It is time for a break. So, guys, we're going to have a little funny video kind of to break things up because it's quite a long premiere video for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video that I have for you. This one is from Foil and Arms with the headline that fossil fuels and green energy, decide to throw a little party. How interesting. Hope you enjoy.
Hey!
Oh, who's this breath of fresh air, huh?
Solar, you look great.
Yeah.
Did you get a bit of sun?
A little, yeah. Hey, come on in. Tidal and Hydro, they're in the kitchen.
Great.
Yeah, all right, bud.
Damn!
You okay?
Oh, no, I was just thinking of a work thing.
Oil, hey, buddy. What's your poison?
CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, benzene, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
To drink? What do you want to drink?
Red wine.
Okay, but it's just like it's a cream carpet, though, so if you could...
Oh, that won't happen again.
Yeah, no.
I don't know what happened last time.
I'm sure it won't.
Yeah.
Where's Nuclear?
Oh, he's in the kitchen having a meltdown.
Oh, what happened?
They split up.
Oh, not again.
Yeah.
That guy's unstable.
You just got to give me another chance. I can get clean.
Yeah, great party, guys.
Which is why I think that offshore is more advantageous.
Yeah, no,
Let's get the tunes going and the drinks flowing.
Do you smell something, Solar?
Yeah, no, I think I do. Yeah.
What's it smell like to you?
That to me is the smell of the past.
Yeah, ancient history.
Yeah, well, they only add that smell in afterwards.
Could you just frack off, guys? Everyone hates me now. They hate me. I used to be the popular one. And now, look at me. But they still use me now, don't they?
Hey, Solar! How's it going? I'm here for the party. I'm so excited.
Sorry, who are you?
Oh, geothermal.
Sorry?
An energy source? Geothermal?
Geo...
Anybody know this guy,
No.
I come from the ground. I'm a renewable energy source.
I don't know anyone. People weird or...
Yeah.
Oh, he's about to score! Right,
Hey guys.
no, what are you, get out of the way! No! No, we missed it!
Classic wind, always ruining the view.
I'm spilling it every can. God damn it. I can't do anything right, can I?
Can we get some white wine and a Hoover?
Hey, Tidal. Heard you're making a bit of a splash these days, huh? Splash. What's wrong with him?
That time of the month.
Low tide.
Low tide. Yeah.
Say what you want about me, but that guy is pure filth. Hey, yes, all right.
So, who are you?
Well, I'm nuclear fusion, so
Thought he was fusion.
he's fission.
Are they the same thing?
No, not the same. They're completely different.
What?
Completely the opposite. I'm like unlimited. I'm completely clean. So, great news is we don't need you. We don't need you.
What?
We don't need any of you really. So,
Kick him out, guys!
hey, on the future.
Well, that was a very weird party. That was a very weird party of different combustible energies there. Clearly, they're not all getting along with each other. No, clearly not, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was a bit of a... It was a bit of a weird one as well, to be fair. Guys, just before I go to the next article, guys, I've got a couple more before we'll have a look at the deep state Mac and we'll have a look at Ukraine. If you guys can financially support me in any way, shape or form, it'd be greatly appreciated. Any super chats are welcome. Being a YouTube member as well is one of the best ways you can financially support me. 99p may not sound like a lot, but it really does make a massive difference to supporting me here. You get access to custom emojis as well as you get access to community posts, members only posts. And if you're a $2.99 member, you get early access to content being a $2.99 member. So thank you to everyone and anyone who has become a YouTube member. It's greatly appreciated. Other ways, if you want to financially support me outside of YouTube, you could do so by buying me a coffee. Link is in the description. Another way you can financially support me is by joining my Patreon. By joining Patreon, not only do you're paying into that, but you also get exclusive access to exclusive content on the platform as well, because I do exclusive content on Patreon for paid members as well as for free members on there as well. So do check that out, patreon.com/Reganelite, and do check out my Rumble page as well, because I do cover a lot of stuff on this particular topic, which we are finally synchronizing our way into, and that is on Gaza, guys. This is one of the latest from Middle Eastern Eye. Hamas has dismissed reports that breakthrough is imminent in ceasefire talks. This is an exclusive from them, so it's entirely possible that at the time of this recording that there may be ceasefire talk. There's ceasefire, and maybe the guns will go down. I'd rather that you'll be watching this and the guns have stopped and the ceasefire has happened and the bloodshed has stopped more than anything. So if that's the case, I'm going to be very, very happy. But if not, sources from Palestinian movement reject the claims that negotiations about the framework of the deal are set to yield immediate success. So let's read a bit more into this before I give my thoughts. So, Hamas has dismissed media reports that claims a breakthrough is imminent in negotiations with Israel over a ceasefire in Gaza, with sources telling Middle Eastern Eye that several obstacles remain and that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was obstructing the process of mediators again pushing for a deal. Yes, so one of the biggest problems that has been Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over all of this. Not so much Hamas, not so much Israel, but Benjamin Netanyahu specifically, who is trying to delay a ceasefire in any way, shape or form. He's trying to drag it out as much as possible. And we know that Benjamin Netanyahu has stated categorically that he will not rest until the whole of Hamas is destroyed. So I don't see how you can get a ceasefire if your intention is to destroy Hamas. It's like... Anyway, he in my mind anyway, he sees the whole of Gaza as Hamas as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that he is the biggest obstacle in all of this. Sources in the Palestinian movement rubbish reports on Thursday that claim a framework for the ceasefire has been agreed upon by the parties and that they were now negotiating details of how it would be implemented. The sources who spoke on conditional autonomy said there was nothing new to report and there was no impending breakthrough in negotiations. Despite the CIA Director Bill Burns meeting senior Israeli, Egyptian and Qatari officials in Doha on Wednesday. Yeah, so Qatar, Egypt are kind of mediators that are helping broker this situation, try to broker some kind of deal as well. Burns travelled to Qatar earlier this week in the hopes of closing remaining gaps in the framework of a ceasefire deal and moving to detailed negotiations. Yeah, Hamas make their dealings through because they have a neutral relationship with Qatar, so they do it through them, and that's where that's why Qatar is in these reports, because they play quite a key role in this because they actually have dialogue with Hamas. On Wednesday, the Washington Post reported, citing an unnamed US official, that the framework for a ceasefire had been agreed upon and that the parties were negotiating details of how it would be implemented. I think if that was the case, there would have been a lot more talk about it and not just in one post. But but like I said, I do think that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to scupper any kind of post-peacefire deal. However, sources from Hamas told MEE that, contrary to what David Ignace, the Washington Post columnist, wrote, there is no progress in the negotiations. Part of what was mentioned in the David Lewis article were discussed, and we did not reach an agreement on. With some were discussed at all, and others mentioned that the peace are not even up for negotiations or discussed with the Israelis, one of the sources said. Israel and Hamas have been engaged in indirect talks since January to reach a deal that ends the war on Gaza and swap prisoners. The two sides have been back and forth over a three-phase proposed outline for the agreement presented by mediators from the United States, Qatar, and Egypt. The mediators have not publicly detailed the full context of the proposal, but the broad contours of the deal, according to previous rounds of negotiations shared with MEE, involve a 6-week pause in fighting in which Hamas will release some Israeli captives it has held since the 7th of October when it attacked southern Israel. Now, in exchange, Israel is prepared to release a number of Palestinian prisoners, withdraw its troops from certain regions of the Gaza Strip, and allow Palestinians to travel from the south of the territory to the north. During the second phase, there would be a direct announcement of permanent cessation of military operations before the remaining Israeli captives are exchanged for more Palestinian prisoners. In the last phase, there would be a complete lifting of blockade of the Gaza Strip. According to the Washington Post report, Hamas reportedly retented on its demands for a written guarantee on a permanent end to the fighting. Instead, reported that it accepted a UN Security Council resolution passed last month, which says that if the negotiations take longer than 6 weeks for phase 1, the ceasefire will still continue as long as negotiations continue. Yeah, so Hamas have kind of tried to move the dial a little bit on this, but we have to remember this is a terrorist organization as well. The Post also claimed that Hamas and Israel agreed to hand over control of Gaza to a new US-trained Palestinian force of 2,500 supporters of the Palestinian Authority, PA. This is huge. Okay, this is really good. If Gaza is no longer in the hands of Israel, that's huge. That is huge. Now, obviously, many Israelis will feel a great deal of fear and concern with that, and completely understandably, given the history. But this would give Palestinians a lot more breathing space, especially those who are not linked to Hamas, and those who don't hold, and those who just want to come back to some sort of life. According to the report, members of the force will be drawn to those already in Gaza and have been vetted by Israel. The force would also be backed by moderate Arab states. In May, a senior Palestinian source with knowledge of the Hamas policies told ME that Hamas was prepared to show flexibility about the future governance of Gaza as long as the decision to rule base battled enclaves is agreed upon other Palestinian factions and is not imposed by either the US or Israel. At the time, however, there was no mention that they would agree to force that was made up of PA supporters. There was no confirmation of this new US-backed force from sources from Hamas MEE spoke to or from Israeli officials. Interesting. According to a separate report on Wednesday, Axios reported, citing unnamed sources in Israel and the US, that Israel believes the framework for a ceasefire deal should be resolved within the latest round of talks in Doha. However, it is reported that several sticking points remain, as is the timetable for the Israeli forces withdrawing from Gaza, the identities and sequence of the Palestinian prisoners who will be released from Israeli prisons, or whether Israel will be able to veto the release of some prisoners. The US is Israel's closest ally and biggest arms supporter, but, along with several nations, has become sharply critical of the huge death toll in Gaza and the destruction brought by the 9-month Israeli offensive. Any deal that pauses fighting in Gaza will provide a foreign policy victory for President Joe Biden as he gears up for a difficult decision contest with Donald Trump after the dismissal debate performance is very concerned about his age and cognitive abilities. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. But yeah, if Biden was to play a significant role in if America was to play the role that they are in to stop the fighting, it would definitely boost Biden's chances of holding on. Despite attempts to end the conflict, which has displaced 90% of Palestinians more than once, Israeli forces have continued to attack Gaza and on Wednesday issued a new force displacement orders from Palestinians in the north of the enclave, demanding that they move south. The new orders detailed the leaflets dropped by Israeli military call on Palestinians to flee along the so-called safe corridors from Gaza City to Deir al-Bahir in central Gaza. The orders seen by Palestinians in an attempt to ethnically cleanse northern Gaza comes amid intensifying Israeli aerial and ground offensive in the war-ravaged area. Several Palestinians in Gaza City shrugged off the latest displacement orders, saying that they would rather die in their destroyed homes than flee. We will remain steadfast in our homes and we will stay in them, Fatima Shalim in her 70s told ME in her bombed-out home. We die here or we triumph. Mohammed Kaspi, who was forced from his home in the Tolov neighborhood earlier this week by Israel's recent ground offensive, echoed Shalim's resolve. Opting to move further north to the Jabal refugee camps instead of fleeing south, he told ME that the survival of his family played heavily on his mind, but safety remained elusive throughout Gaza. There is no safety in the south or north. I would rather die in Tolov or Jabita than be buried in the south, he said, adding that life necessities are non-existent there in the south. Having lost his wife and mother to an Israeli airstrike early in the war, Kazim now cares for his 3 sons and daughters alone. We struggle to get water and only have canned food available, but we say all praise is due to God. Israel's war on Gaza is now nearing its 10th month and has destroyed large swathes of besieged territory. More than 38,000 people have been killed, the great majority of them women and children. Thousands more are missing or presumed to be dead under the rubble. Communicable diseases are rapidly spreading and infant mortality has skyrocketed. Yeah, it's those last bits obviously quite damning. Obviously, the other story that you may have seen when we were reading it as well is that the US are shutting down their aid here, apparently, according to reports. I haven't seen it officially confirmed from them, but they've had far too many problems with it. The idea of that aid pier, was obviously to try and bring in aid from the sea as opposed to from the borders. And the reason they couldn't do it is because too many Israeli settlers are trying to block aid getting into Gaza, and they would rather kill off the people inside the Gaza Strip in an effort to try and save those who've been taken by Hamas. And it's really frustrating to say the least. Obviously, I'll try to cover it as much as I can on the Rumble channel whenever I possibly can for you guys. But as for whether there's going to be any kind of ceasefire deal, I don't hold much hopes in that, if in any way, shape, or form. I just think Netanyahu is just going to try and hold out for as much as he possibly can. That's my general belief. I just don't think he's interested in any way, shape, or form of a ceasefire talks. His position is to drag this war out for as long as possible, and maybe even blow into a full-scale war with Hezbollah and Lebanon in order to justify him staying in power, because he's the only one that can keep things going. I think because obviously there's been a lot of talk about that as well, which would be, there's already skirmishes taking place, but we're talking about full-blooded blown war where Israeli forces are literally going in there. It's it's a really rough time for Palestinian people, for innocent, for those who still haven't met their loved ones, or they lost their loved ones because of what's happened, because of what happened October the 7th. There's that as well, guys. So it's not good at all. Next story I've got for you guys is going back into Europe, guys. So this one is from Euronews. The headline is EU leaders seek to distance themselves from Orbán's meeting with Trump. So obviously at the NATO, there was obviously everybody was meeting at the NATO summit, and Viktor Orbán was at the Mar-a-Lago hotel visiting Trump. Now, why was he visiting Trump? Could it be that because it's his turn to be running things in the EU to a certain extent? So the former US president met Hungarian's prime minister at his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida on Thursday. European Union leaders are distancing themselves from the meeting between Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and the former US President Donald Trump, which took place in Florida on Thursday following NATO summit in Washington. The blog leaders want to ensure Orbán's actions do not represent EU views. Oh, that's not good. European Council President Charles Michel said Orbán's visit to Trump's Mar-a-Lago house was not conducted on behalf of the EU, despite Hungary currently holding the presidency of the blog. Yes, that's just reminded me there. Yeah, he is the presidency of the blog as of right now. And there he was visiting Trump. Oh, not good, not good, not good. The rotating presidency doesn't represent the EU at its external level. There's a clear position, and this visit paid by the Prime Minister of Hungary was not a visit on behalf of the EU, Michel has said. The leaders have a tight relationship for years. Orbán's last visit to Trump's Florida home was in the spring, shortly after he endorsed Trump's presidential bid. Oh, so he's pretty much a big sucker to President Trump, clearly. Orbán's meeting with America's Republican candidate comes just weeks after meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Oh, funny that. During the NATO summit, the Polish head of foreign shadow affairs, Robslaw Skakowski, commented on Orbán's recent trips to Russia and China, stating that in the near future, EU members will take actions to discipline Hungary's prime minister. But what exactly can you do? As long as he's voted in by the people of Hungary, what exactly can you do? The Hungarian leader has openly endorsed Trump's candidacy in this year's presidential election and expressed hopes that the Republican candidate will bring an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Yeah, we know how they're going to end the war. Literally just going to stop giving Ukraine what it needs. The EU's longest-serving leader has become an icon in some conservative populists for championing what he calls liberal democracy, which includes restrictions on immigration and LGBTQ+ rights. Yeah. Orbán met with Trump at the former president's beachside compound Mar-a-Lago and shared a photo of the two on social media with the caption, "We discussed ways to make peace. The good news of the day is he's going to solve it." On his own social media site, Trump posted, "Thank you, Victor. There must be peace, and quickly." The Mar-a-Lago meeting, Orbán, second since March, came as the latest stop on what he calls a peace mission aimed at finding a path towards ending Russia's war in Ukraine. Orbán has sought close ties with Russia and other conservative Republicans and expressed his belief in a new Trump presidency was the only serious chance for an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump has repeatedly said he could settle the war in 24 hours if elected president, again by meeting both President Vladimir Putin and President Volodymyr Zelensky, a claim Russia's UN ambassador has disputed. Yeah, because what exactly is he going to say? I'm going to give you a lot of money. What are you going to do, bribe him? Widely considered to have the warmest relations with the Kremlin among all EU leaders, Orbán has made unannounced visits last week to Kiev, where he held talks with Zelensky. Some of his critics interpreted that Kiev visits as a sign that Hungary could take steps closer to EU mainstream pro-Ukraine stance as it took over the blog 6 months rotating presidency earlier this month. But those hopes were dashed when he made an unannounced trip to Moscow days later to meet Putin, a trip to Russia by the European Union leader that drew condemnation from Kiev and other European capitals. After that, he flew to Beijing to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, where he described China as a stabilizing force amid global turbulence and praised its constructive and important peace initiatives. Yeah, he's a proper suck up to to people on the so-called right, shall we say? And obviously, you know, he does not represent, in my opinion, he does not represent the majority of people within the European Union. Viktor Orbán, he may be Hungary's prime minister, but I do hope I do believe that there are some Hungarians out there that really don't see him as a person for good or for good intentions of their country. I really do think there are those people out there. It's just a matter of finding them. But yeah, it's just once again highlighted like would he change his stance and would he change his skin in any way, shape or form? No, not really. He hasn't really changed at all, unfortunately. So yeah, that's really frustrating to say the least. So guys, speaking of Ukraine, we're going to look at the latest news from the Kiev Independent, and then we're going to have a look at the deep state map, which has had a bit of a makeover on it as well, which is going to be interesting to look at as well. So let's dive into what's been happening from them. Oh, is this the right one? Yeah. So the first one I have for you guys is that Moscow plans to block YouTube in the fall, Russian media claims. This is really bad. So the Russian government plans to block YouTube in September. The Russian pro-state outlet Gaza.ru reported on the 12th of July, citing a source close to the presidential administration and a source in the company that collects data for law enforcement agencies. The news comes as Rosatom, the country's leading telecommunications provider, said there are technical problems with Google's equipment, which may affect the download speed and quality of YouTube videos. Things will get worse in July and August, meaning that YouTube's functionality will worsen in some regions. Gaza's R2 source close to a presidential administration reportedly has said. And in September, the blocking of YouTube will start. Gaza's Russian second source also confirmed, and that there are plans to block the website in the fall. A Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, denied the supposed plans to restrict the website, saying that, according to official statements from relative companies, the equipment in question has not been updated for over 2 years. An undisclosed source told the independent outlet Missouri that Rosatom's explanation is merely an attempt to shift responsibility, that the government has been deliberately slowing down the site since July the 11th. This source added that Ramoskoska, the country's censorship agency, has tools to throttle traffic on its own. The Kiev Independent could not independently verify the claims. With 93 million Russian users, YouTube has been dubbed the country's last bastion of free expression and information, amid a sweeping government crackdown on the information space. As the Kremlin intensifies its pressure against the site to block undesirable content like anti-war videos, observers said that the site's complete ban is only a matter of time. That's really scary. Yeah, I mean, I actually have got... I do have, because I do look at the analogies. I do have a couple of Russian viewers, believe it or not. And I just and now they're them and many. And there's obviously some really powerful YouTubers out there that get a lot of information through YouTube to people inside Russia or those within Russia, obviously doing YouTube videos to get out information what's going on. That's quite a hole that they're going to basically plug, really. That's basically what they're planning to do. They really plug quite a few holes there. Ukraine's Prosecutor General urges the ICC to prosecute Russia attack on the Kiev hospital. Yeah, so for those who don't know, Russia, one of Russia's missiles, when they did an attack, hit a children's hospital, which obviously caused a great deal of suffering. I mean, a children's hospital, they have tried to argue that it wasn't them, but the problem is that there's too many verification claims that have said, yeah, it was definitely Russia that did this. So Ukraine's Prosecutor General Anthony Koskin called on the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC, to prosecute Russia's missile attack on the Omadastri Children's Hospital in Kiev, they told Reuters on July the 11th. Russian forces launched a missile strike on Ukraine on the 8th of July, killing at least 44 people and injuring nearly 200 others. One Russian missile directly struck the hospital, Ukraine's largest children's medical center. Yeah, and we've talked about that before. The attack there nearly killed 3 people, destroyed 1 building and damaged 4 others in the hospital complex. 30 people have been killed elsewhere in the capital. For the sake of international justice, cases like the international attack on the biggest child hospital in Kiev are worth lifting to the ICC, Koskin told Reuters in The Hague. If the ICC starts investigating the strikes on the hospitals, it could help establish a pattern of attacks that show Russia is committing crimes against humanity in Ukraine. Kostin has said Kiev is opening to providing the court with any evidence and details of its investigation, it added. A team from the ICC's prosecutor office visited the site of the attack, while the ICC has not publicly commented on what charges it's investigating. It has warned that anyone found responsible for an attack on civilian objects could be prosecuted, rhetorics have broke. The Russian military struck Omorovsky with a Kh-101 cruise missile, according to preliminary data obtained by the State Security Service, SBU. A law enforcement source told the Kiev Independent that the missile was launched in accordance with the programmed route. And over 600 patients and at least many staff members at the Children's Hospital and the Ukrainian Center for Pediatric Cardiac Surgery located near the hospital at the moment of the attack. The ICC issued in late June arrest warrants for Sergei Sosko, the Secretary of Russia's Security Council, and Vladimir Gashkamov, the chief of the General Staff of the Russian Army, for war crimes against Ukraine related to the Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The Hague has also issued arrest warrants in March 2023 for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights Marina Lavinka-Bolska for the foreseeable transfer of children from Russia-occupied parts of Ukraine. Yeah, they have still not claimed back a lot of those children, which is really, really, really bad. South Korea is to double its contributions to NATO's Ukraine fund here. So South Korea plans to double its contributions to NATO's trust fund to Ukraine to $24 million in 2025, the South Korean president has said today. The president made the announcement during the NATO summit in Washington, where the allies, gathered to discuss further support for the Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression. South Korea will continue to provide security support, humanitarian aid, and reconstruction assistance to Ukraine, Yong said. Next year, we will double our contribution to NATO's Ukraine trust fund compared to this year. Sal donated $12 million to the NATO Ukraine Trust Fund for the healthcare and rehabilitation of injured soldiers in 2024. South Korea has provided Kiev with extensive economic humanitarian aid and has pledged $300 million in short-term aid in 2024 and $2 billion in long-term loan interest. While initially refusing to provide a direct lethal military support, the countries recently said it is revising this stance in the light of the deepening cooperation between Russia and North Korea, its chief rival. Media reports emerged in 2023 that South Korea, a major arms producer, is indirectly supplying Ukraine with artillery shells via the US, but Seoul has denied this claim. Interesting. So obviously, yeah, South Korea, they're obviously trying to help in there. Let's just see, just having a look at seeing what else is coming down the pipeline. We talked about this in the other piece. Obviously, I've covered this in a short story that no, not this one actually. Sorry, it's a different country. Sorry. Yeah. So I know Norway are obviously providing F-16s, but I wasn't aware of Denmark here. So it depends on circumstances. Danish Prime Minister says on Ukraine using F-16s to strike inside Russia. Yeah. So a lot of countries, obviously, this has been talked about before. So some countries are okay with their weapons being used in Russia, and some are not. Because obviously it ties them into them contributing. Obviously, it's this really annoying situation because it's like everyone's trying to help Ukraine, but at the same time they're not prepared to put foot soldiers down for Ukraine. It's a weird situation. It is a bit of a weird situation. This whole like us supplying weapons and arms and all that to Ukraine and not actually putting forces down. The permission for Ukraine to strike inside Russia with Danish-supported F-16s will depend on the circumstances. The Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told the RFE-RL on July 12th while confirming that it will be allowed in some cases. Copenhagen previously indicated that F-16s, which should already be on their way to Ukraine, can be used by Kiev to targets in Russia within the rules of war. So essentially, don't target children's hospitals like Russia did. When asked about the matter from an RL reporter in Washington, they said, "You cannot put that question and expect simple answers because it all depends on the circumstances. It has to be according to international law. But it is also possible to reach targets outside Ukraine." Yes, the Prime Minister added. In addition to Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium and Norway have also promised to supply Ukraine with their F-16 jets. The pledged aircraft so far amount to 79, that including 19 from Copenhagen. Netherlands indicated it would allow Ukraine to strike inside Russia, while Belgium said that its F-16s are intended for use on the Ukrainian territory. Frederiksen echoed President Volodymyr Zelensky's statement that the F-16s currently pledged is not sufficient in the face of Russian air power. That's one reason why we have built international F-16 coalition, the Prime Minister said, voicing hopes that other countries will further assistance with training and aircraft. Ferguson rejected the idea that Western arms supplies could lead to an escalation, saying that the sole responsibility of the war lies with Russia and that Ukraine has the right and the obligations to defend itself. As for the rest of Europe, we will continue. We will have to protect our continent, our values, our people, and therefore we have not only to defend Ukraine but also defeat the Russians, the Danish head of government has said. But you're not actually in the war itself. You're not actually specifically in the war, which is a bit of a weird thing, if I'm honest. But yeah, so there's not really too much, nothing really too specific on the actual ground of, apart from not really too much happening on the ground, shall we say. I would say things are pretty more things maybe have been a bit stale, shall we say, between a bit of more of a stalemate on what's been happening on the ground. Maybe there has been a bit of a slowdown. I'm not 100% sure. But it has been quite a while, guys, since we have looked at the deep state map. So let me show you what has happened. So here it is, guys, the deep state map. As you can see, they have updated it. So they've tried to simplify it a lot easier for people, which I really appreciate it. So I'm just so they've got it by dates here. Instead of, they haven't got a specific time slot from up here now. It's just by dates. So as of right now, I've got it on at the start of the month, the 3rd of July here. So obviously they've been trying to push. There's been attacks, obviously trying to push from Belgorod in here. They have pushed and taken a little bit of territory. So for those who are wondering, the green. The color of green land, that is basically where a lot of the counteroffensive was. So when Ukraine had their counteroffensive, this is what they pushed back on, for those who are wondering. So all of that's down there, and then obviously down here at the bottom in the south there, Kursk obviously being the big one there. The Dynamo River is what's obviously is stopping them obviously crossing pathways there, but at the moment I'm on the 3rd. This has jumped now to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and that's today. So, and if you could just have a look here, so we can see that there has been some push in what territory that they had before here. So they are making slow gains. It's very Russia, but it is very, very slow here. So they have made some ground there. Not really too much around here from the looks of it. Yamli, Soskis, Biotoskis, they're right there in the far corner there. Has been not so much here. Obviously they're trying to make pushes here. We've talked a lot about in the past about Chasisvar and Bakhmuk here. There has been lots and lots of engagements here. We've heard about this before. If I scroll back a bit, maybe to see, have there been much change in movement here? There has been a little bit, but not too much. Yeah, there's not been too much movement there, but that's been one of the places where we've been hearing a lot of conflicts taking place along there. Scroll a bit further down here. This obviously here, they've been trying to hold from Zasing, Toskitsk, Niloviskaba, and New York here. They're trying to make grounds in there as well. And this is where the most recent gains was when we last looked at the deep state map, guys. It's been here from Avika. You guys remember, obviously, for those who remember, Avika was one of the last line defenses where they were trying to hold territory. But you can see if I pull back the days, I'm pulling back the dates here. 5th, 3rd, last month, 2nd, this is 2nd, 1st. You can see as I'm pulling the days back, you can see This is This is going back one day at a time. This is in June. This is 23rd of June. Yeah. So you see 23rd of June. You can see that as time has passed, they have been slowly still pushing, 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 still pushing. And this is coming all the way up to the 11th. So every day they've made gains in this specific area here. And remember, they want the whole of Donetsk by the end of the year. Their objective is to take all of Donetsk by the end of the year. They want to take all that. Ukraine have just not been able to stop this push. Not been able to stop this push. Ever since the city of Avdiivka fell, they've just not been able to stop this in any way, shape or form. They keep finding ways out. It is a real struggle there. I know some people will say, "Oh, it's not as bad as it looks." It's still territory lost to Russia. As for other areas here, let's just have a quick gander. Has there been much change in these parts down here? Pulling it back all the way back to the 2nd. Doesn't look like there's been much change there. Has there been much change down here? The line looks like it's been pretty solid all along here, because quite frankly, yeah, nothing's too much. Yeah, see these line along here, Olevik, Halapulu, Veskia Noskoska, and Voldia here. This is all territory that Ukraine soldiers are pretty much well embedded in. They've got the territory pretty much locked down. They're holding pretty steadfast there. But the main place of contention where they're losing territory is obviously here, Avdiivka. This is something that they need to kind of get a grip on. That there might be a case of maybe they need to do something to stop this, because it's clearly becoming problematic in terms of offensive. Because yeah, they are taking that territory there. Obviously, nothing much changed. For those, I'll just show you guys this before I come out. Obviously, this is Kurshkin here. So I do talk about reports and that from here as well. So here, the Dymo River. Obviously, there's a lot of skirmish. Not really too much skirmishes here because they've knocked out the bridges here. But lots of they do lots of attacks onto the other side. From this side, Russia tried to do to Ukraine here along that territory there. So you will sometimes hear reports, obviously, from Kurshkin in that area as well. But this is the latest update, the current state of the map as of right now, guys. So yeah, there is obviously, it's not a lot, but it is still territory that they have since we last looked at the deep state map. Has been quite a while, to be fair. But yeah, we can clearly see that they are still losing territory, but it's not as much, not as much as maybe not as bad as some people may think, but it's still territory nonetheless. And obviously, the missile strikes where they hit Children's Hospital not too long ago was also abhorrent as well. But yeah, this conflict is no signs of it ending in any way, shape, or form right now. And obviously, with the approved package by the US, obviously it'd be interesting to see what happens. How that's affecting. It's clearly still taking time. I was expecting the gains, the advantage of Russia to slow down and stop, but it has not happened, unfortunately. I don't know when or if it's going to happen, but yeah, they have a target to try and take all of Donetsk by the end of this year, as well as one or two other states. Whether they will or not will have to remain to be seen, you guys. But that is the current situation in Ukraine right now. So, guys, we've reached the end of World's News Round. What did you guys make of some of the stories that I've covered today? Let me know what you guys thought of the format of what I did as well, like the intro and the closing. Or should I pull it back to what it used to be with the original intro? I would like a bit of feedback on that, because obviously it's this is the first time I'm doing a premiere video with this kind of format. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Joe Biden and his issue with his age and his fumbling of words? The Philippines obviously claiming to stand their ground against China. Is they really going to do anything? What's going on with Kenya and President Ruto firing his entire cabinet? Is that really going to be the right way of fixing things? Obviously, Brazil's spy agency targeting Botswana's foes there, and how worrying that could be, obviously, as well there. The continuation of the war in Gaza and the possibility if there ever be a ceasefire. Viktor Orbán meeting Donald Trump as well, and of course the updates that have been happening in the war in Ukraine. Let me know your thoughts and more in the comments section down below. But just before you head out, guys, gang here would like to say thank you very much for watching. Much appreciated. But if you haven't already, guys, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.